All right, now for the page transitions, remember you're creating 5 unique page transitions using different styles or different techniques on each one. So you can create a simple one like that. You're not reusing the one we did in class. You're making a new one that does that if you want to use one. Okay. I have the blip transition one where it goes bloop and then falls off.
Can I still use the blips, or do you want me to make brand new blips?
You can reuse the blips. That's fine.
I was gonna say,
Okay, there's the radial one that we did. Here's a scaling one. Now I took the scaling one and I actually added it to like that. Okay, so I actually put them all in the same comp, or I put that one in a new comp, and then I scaled it, and then just changed the color on each one of those, and then it gives me this look. And I've even lined it up so that it starts at the top left corner, and then goes to the bottom right corner. It's the same way, so we would just click on this, and we would add, well, we would add that hue saturation, right? Now, I'll show you that one in a second, and then I did this one. Okay, and this one is just, I used a texture. That was the only difference from what we've already discussed. Let me make a new composition real quick so you can see how to do that in case you would like to try out a texture. So I'm going to make a solid. I'm going to give it a better color. I like that color. There we go. I went to textures.com. I grabbed a texture. There it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this top pale green part. Okay. So I'm going to, let's say, just to keep this simple, I'm just going to scale it like that. And I'll put the position over here. I'll put this there. There we go. So this is just going to scale from this direction, like that. Okay? So I'm going to reset this to 0. Set my scaler, go up to 7. A little bit more, like 105, I guess. I'm going to wait a frame, and then I'm going to scale it up the other direction. Okay, so in this case, it's all doing do like that. I would, of course, go to Easy Ease. I would, of course, go into here and tweak my keyframes. Not like that. Not like that. Come on. There we go. Okay, so my speed's going to be right on the start of this and right on the end. There we go. All right, that works. Now to get this texture to be cut out just in that area, that's where I'm going to use that track matte that I showed before. So if I just say alpha matte, that pale green, there's the alpha matte of that pale green. Okay. Now the neat thing about this is how it's doing it, obviously, because it's just cutting it out. Now I could have, just so you can see this, let's say I copy these keyframes, and I just applied it to this one. Oops. I'll, of course, make sure my anchor point is in the same spot. So let me go back to here, and then scoot this over. There we go. Right? So you can see the difference. This one is stretching it out. Right? So you can see how it's stretching out that carpeting, where the one below it is just revealing the carpeting. Okay, so obviously 2 different things. This one, you don't get the stretch on it, so it doesn't look so odd, right? If I wanted to give this a color, I can do a couple things. One, I can just go to this and go to color correction, go to hue and saturation. I could say colorize, and then I could adjust the color of it. That's one way I could do it. The other way is whenever we do a track matte, After Effects automatically hides that layer. So if I turn it back on, you'll see we get the green is like dominating it. But we still have these modes that we talked about before. So I can change the mode to, let's say, not add. Let's say overlay. Okay, so now it tints that a little bit of a greenish color. Or I can do lighter color. Ooh, that's ugly. I can do color. That works too. I could do hue. And then all I did was just duplicate it. So once I had one of these all set up, I can delete this top one because I don't need that. I just duplicated this and then duplicated it again and then just moved it. So this one will be, let's say, down here. Oops. And this one will be, let's say, up here. There we go. Yeah, that's cool. I could even take one of these and rotate it. Whoops. I don't need to rotate both of them. I just need to rotate the one. Not that one. I want the middle one. This one? Yep. Nope. That one. Then we'll rotate this one 180 degrees and then scoot it over to the right. And now this one should go the other direction. Right. Cool. Okay, so that's how you could use texture on top of yours as well. I also have, if you look, I have a vignette. I showed how to do the vignette on the title one, so you can always reference back to that one if you need to. As you're testing these out to see are they good transitions, obviously having motion blur on, all that stuff, is something that you would want to have on yours, typically. But hit the transparency grid, right? So what should happen is at the beginning of yours, it should look like this, completely transparent. Our animation comes on, so it's not transparent, and then it goes away, transparent again. So every one of yours should have transparency at the beginning, this thing happens, and then transparency at the end. Whenever the thing happens, that has to cover the entire screen because something else is going to be popped in underneath it. So we can't have anything showing. Now once your transition is over, okay, so here's mine done, I'm going to hit the N key to set the end of my work area, and then go to composition and trim the comp. So that way this is exactly as long as it needs to be. It starts, it does its thing, and it's over. So this is something typically you could just do right at the end. I'll turn on my transparency grid, nothing, transparency, it's there, and then it's gone. That's where the end of it is, so I'll hit N, trim the comp. Go to the next one and just do the same thing. Make sure the grid's on, something happens, and then it goes away. I hit N, and I trim my comp. And you can see the hotkey Control-Shift-X, so you can definitely use that as well. And I know this one is transparent at the beginning and end, so that's good. And then, like I said, make sure your motion blur is on too, where you want motion blur to happen. All right, this one's good, and Control-Shift-X. And then last one. And Control-Shift-X. Sweet. Okay, so that's going to be your transitions assignment. That's not how you're turning it in, but that's going to be the gist of the actual assignment stuff. Wednesday, these will be due, so I will go through the next part of this, which is taking your title sequence that we created, bringing that in, and then making your transitions go from one to the other, to the other, to the other, and then how to turn that in, okay? I'll show that on Wednesday. Spam. We're doing separate compositions for each transition, and then we're going to put them all together. No, you can just keep them in the same file. That way you can always reference them. Like if you look at how many compositions I have here, this is a lot of compositions. You may have 10 more, right? You may have 5 you've played with or whatever that you just want to play around with. Okay? Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever need to undo easy ease?
If you ever need to undo it? Typically you don't need to, but if you did, you can just control click on the keyframes and it'll send them back to where they were. Okay?
I'm playing around, it's like I just wanted to start over.
Right, without having to get rid of the keyframes. Yep, that's how you would do it. Control clicking on them. You could also, let me go back to, let's say this one here. If you right click and you go to Keyframe Assistant, interpolate keyframes, you can set these to linear, and that's doing the same exact thing, but it's an extra couple clicks. Okay? Anything else?
I got a problem I need.
Okay. All right.